And for a preview of that debate coming up on home mortgages, we spoke to a Capitol Hill reporter who's been covering the debate. On the phone with us is Bill Swindell of Congress Daily. In the wake of problems in the subprime mortgage business, how is Congress responding?
Well, the House is scheduled this week to take up a bill that would overhaul the Federal Housing Administration, which insures mortgages, especially for those, the target audience is probably those maybe low income and more at risk. And the FHA program over the years has lost a lot of market share because it hasn't been able to offer new products and new policies and that has been picked up by the subprime market that we've heard so much about. And a lot of critics have said that these people have been left to the subprime market and left to loan terms with questionable policies that put them at risk of losing their home.
So how would this bill help those people?
Well, basically, it does a few changes. Basically will lower upfront fees for high-risk borrowers and will allow zero down payment for first-time borrowers. Currently, the FHA requires a down payment of at least 3%. The major one, too, is it would allow the FHA program to participate in a lot more communities. The problem is right now with it is that it has a loan limit of only $362,000. Now, in a lot of parts of the country, that can buy a pretty good house, but in certain areas, especially the large metropolitan areas around the country, San Francisco, Boston, New York, that's not even middle class for a lot of people, and FHA loans have been shut out. So basically, it would raise it to $417,000, which is the loan limit amount for loans assured under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
So the bill increases that amount, that dollar figure. Does anybody really have a good sense of how many folks are affected by this? How many folks are facing foreclosure?
Well, the foreclosure question is a big debatable topic. There's one group that has been the Center for Responsible Lending, which has been an advocate for low-income home buyers, that estimated over the next 2 years, 2.2 million families could lose their home, potential losing that. Other bankers in that question the figure, even though we are seeing some record rates in terms of those that are entering foreclosure. But if you enter foreclosure, it doesn't mean you lose your loan, because the banking regulators have urged banks and loan
You mentioned the Center for Responsible Lending. How would this bill address risk and making sure folks don't get in over their heads?
Well, the one thing about the FHA, in terms of, it's a little different because Congress is dealing with a lot of issues right now, but the FHA program, advocates believe if that is able to enter the marketplace a lot more and assume a lot more of that risk, its stability. They offer, loans without predatory, they insure loans without any predatory, things that you may see in prepayment penalties or other types of, teaser rates that shoot up after a while. They don't enter into those markets, and that's where the subprime has been the big, problem that has been caused on there. So they fear that the more that FHA can get more market share, get more stabilized, especially maybe for lower income and at-risk borrowers.
What are a couple of the amendments we might see on this home ownership bill?
Well, there are a couple that you may want to keep out. The big one's going to be one by Barney Frank and Representative Gary Miller, who is a Republican from Orange County, California. And their amendment is kind of interesting because we talked about the loan limits being raised up to $417,000. They've decided that, and since what we've seen with the mortgage market crisis lately and all the turmoil that's been going on there, that the FHA needs to play even a bigger role. So their amendment would even boost it, potentially in a lot of areas beyond $500,000, and would also give the HUD Secretary the authority to raise these loan limits by another, on top of another $100,000. And the administration has come out against that proposal because It says the program should remain to its roots, which have been traditionally underserved home buyers, low-income and moderate-income families. So that's going to probably be a big amendment to see. And we may see Republicans, there could be different ones. One I am aware that he's trying to get on the floor is Jeff Hinson, that to use money in this, because this bill will generate revenues, maybe even up to $300 million a year, and House Financial Services Chairman Barney Frank wants to use that money to siphon off the profits that FHA will make, and these profits come from reverse mortgages that the FHA can insure, and use that to set up an affordable housing fund for low-income residents so they can get housing. And there are a lot of Republicans who don't believe that the FHA they should be siphoning off that money, that the money should stay within the program to help build the FHA program. So we should see a fight maybe over that issue as well.
Bill Swindell writes for Congress Daily. He's previewing the home ownership bill coming up in the House. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll have live coverage when the House returns for that debate on the FHA home mortgage bill, as well as 4 bills recognizing various military anniversaries.
They are the best Americans. And what Americans do is help the weak.
Beginning at 11 Eastern, National Intelligence Director Michael McConnell testifies before the House Judiciary Committee on the warrantless surveillance bill. He's joined at the witness table by the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. And at 2:30, we're going to look at how the Homeland Security Department spends over the past 4 years. We'll have live coverage at 2:30 on C-SPAN 3. This Friday on C-SPAN's Presidential Libraries, History Uncovered. This president inherited a country embroiled in war and faced a controversial option for bringing it to an end. Harry S. Truman. Join us as we walk through the Truman Library. Enter his working office, preserved as he left it. See a behind-the-scenes personal side of our nation's 33rd president through rarely seen film and sound recordings, as well as letters, documents, and artifacts. Presidential Libraries, History Uncovered. 2 hours live from the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library in Independence, Missouri. Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN. The House ends for legislative business at 10 Eastern. Before that, news items and some viewer comments from today's Washington Journal.
It's written by Kathy Roth Duquette, who served in the Clinton White House and the Department of Defense. A little bit more on who this person is. Her recent book is titled AWOL, The Unexcused Absence of America's Upper Classes from Military Service and How It Hurts Our Country. It's co-authored with Frank Schaeffer, available in paperback. So Kathy Roth Duquette writes in USA Today in the op-ed section about what the U.S. military's role ought to be: world policeman or contributing member of global force, she asks. She writes that because we are so active, the rest of the world scales back further militarily. The British Navy, the world's second largest after ours, has announced plans to nearly cut its fleet in half. As a British admiral confided, why should Britain maintain an expensive navy when the U.S. Navy is so strong? Economists call this the free rider problem. In exchange for its ability to act alone, the U.S. largely bears the cost of securing an increasingly wealthy world. Kathy Roth Duquette goes on to talk about plans to increase the military by 100,000 new ground troops by the year 2013. And she writes that if we're going to use our troops in Iraq and beyond, as we have lately, to globally deter, police, stabilize, build, and rescue, then indeed we need to expand. But it's worth noting that the U.S. continues to undertake most missions largely alone. We have more than 200,000 troops in about 130 countries other than Iraq today, all doing one of those missions mentioned in this piece. They talk about many missions around the world, and in contrast, most countries' foreign deployed troops number in the hundreds or low thousands. She writes that if we pay attention to it, this proposed increase of forces here in the U.S. presents a chance not only to reinforce our overworked military, but also to challenge its roles and missions. Are there ways to better share the costs and work with other countries profiting from global stability? After all, our circumstances differ from all previous periods in history when one country served as a global guarantor of peace. Unlike the Victorians or Romans, we have true partners and allies that are free and strong states. So, world policeman or contributing member of global force, what's the role of the U.S. military? What should it be moving forward? First call, Miami, Democrats line. Hi.
Yes, hi, good morning. The military role should be to protect the United States, and it shouldn't be getting involved in other people's problems. Every country has to sort of take care of themselves. We can't be policing the whole world. The problem with this whole Iraq war and everything is everybody says now it's the oil, but it's just not the oil. It's also Israel. We have to be even-handed. If we could solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we could solve the war on terrorism, but nobody wants to mention that because as soon as you mention Israel, all of a sudden everybody shuts off and you called anti-Semitic. I want to help Israel, and you can't help Israel by going ahead and attacking Iran and all that. It's not help Israel. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
you calling. King George, Virginia, independent call.
A few cents of your monthly television bill comes to pay for our operation. With no commercials, no public fundraising appeals, and no government money to defray our costs, C-SPAN is truly a public service of your cable or satellite provider.
The C-SPAN networks, providing you access to public affairs on television, radio, and on the web. Six of the Democratic presidential candidates attended Iowa Senator Tom Harkin's 30th annual Steak Fry on Sunday. Here's a look at the event that attracted about 12,000 Iowans to the county fairgrounds in Indianola.
Iowa's pretty lucky to have the caucuses when we have them, so we get all this attention from the presidential candidates, and we get people from all over the state and probably the central United States come here, and we're all Democrats, and we all have this camaraderie and just have a nice afternoon.
Is there anything unique about this event that you don't get, say, at a rally or at a debate or that kind of thing?
I think it's unique because they feed you, and you can sit around and visit and meet a lot of people that from different parts of the country that you probably wouldn't see at a speech, you know, or a rally. You have more time to visit with other people.
And what do you think about the turnout for the campaigns and the signs and the yelling and chanting?
Oh, the signs are ridiculous. I've never seen so many political signs coming in here, and the kids that work for these candidates are
remarkable.
Remarkable.
Word.
Noisy.
Oh,
I think I've got hearing loss from just coming in here. So.
And will you guys be voting in the caucuses?
Oh yes, absolutely.
And how do you make up your mind on who you're going to support?
Well, we've listened one-on-one with just about every one of them since 2004, and we've always supported John Edwards, so we made up our mind early that we would support him throughout the caucus. As long as he was going to run, we'd support him.
to me, it's a great chance to learn more about the candidates. I love coming and listening to every candidate speak and hear what they have to say.
And I saw you got a seat right up front.
Oh, yeah.
How early did you have to get here to get this seat?
Well, we kind of know a secret way of coming in because we're from Indianola. So we've only been here about a half hour or so.
And what sets this event apart compared to a rally or another?
It's getting to see every candidate. That's the great thing about this, is they all get a chance to speak. You get to form an opinion about hearing them speak.
And I saw you have a number of
Well,
for folks.
yeah, because I'm really undecided right now who I'm going to support. I supported Edwards 4 years ago, but I want to give every candidate a chance this year.
We're number one. Go, John, go. We're not number 5, not number 4, number 3, number 2. We're number 1. Go, John, go. We're not number 5, not number 4, number 3, number 2. We're number 1. Go, John, go. We're not number 5, not number 4, number 3, number 2.
Is that your steak? You guys steak?
Good luck, John. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Keep up the good fight.
Oh, don't worry. Nice meeting you. Good
Grant, just a lot of mistakes. Good to see you.
Great to be here.
Okay, now. This is obligatory.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Get 'em.
No, it'll be good. That's right. And he didn't want to go. He always Yeah, I got a couple of chickens. Yeah, you do. Are these Iowa chickens too?
Oh, they're Arkansas.
Don knows. Only Don knows. That's
Thank you very much.
Keep moving back. You step. Keep it going or else we're just going to get stuck.
Worked at Cumberland Higgins for 7 years, right to that job.
Wonderful to meet you.
Very good.
just signed on. Will you show me where I start? Right over here. Stacy Ethel.
Who you meet, South Park?
There we go. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your help. Thanks for your help at my headquarters. Thank you.
All right, I'm out of here.
All the way. You got it. Oh, yes. How are you? Thank you so much, John. That means a lot to us.
Let's get this done.
We're going to get it done. Your help, that makes it a more likely or possible.
Girls can't be part of this. I said, oh yeah, you just wait.
Hey, Jody.
Yeah.
Helen.
How are you? Good. Good to see you.
How popular are you doing well in Iowa?
How are you? I'm doing well. Good to see you. Let me hydrate.
Hey,
Okay.
we're all just jumping over here.
Sunday. Let's go walking. Barack Obama. Senator Obama, how confident are you that you're going to do well in Iowa?
I am very confident.
Hey, no pushing, guys. Back up.
You don't want to push it while you're at it. What does it take to win Iowa?
Senator Obama.
Obama.
Go around the front.
Thank you, guys. Right. It is a list. Then Illinois beat comes up. That's well. How you been? You don't know? You know about the Hey, man, how you doing? How are you guys? Actually, I know more about chicken than beef, guys. You know what I mean? Chicken's over there. Well, no, I like the beef better right now. You know what I mean? It's my way chill. Now, you guys think you only have to talk about it. I do this all the time. I tell the barbecue. Keep it up. I know that's a tough fight, but you look at that. All right, keep it up. 59 days in intensive care, and they're telling me I had not much of a chance. And the nurse, you know, we got in intensive care. And they gave me a 20 to 30% chance. My neurosurgeon come in and come over, and the nurse will go, yes, doctor. They walk out and take care. All right. They take care of it. I tell you, the nurse is the only, and I said, if there any Asians in heaven, they're all nurses. You think I'm joking. You underestimate what you guys do. Well, good luck to you, kids. You look like you're ready to hit. I'm almost ready to dance. All right.
God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God, the best to lead, who do we need? Fish! God!
Thanks, guys. Ah, here, the Hartford steak fry. There you go. Get in there. All right, get into the steak fry. There you go. One good steak. Is that mine? Looks pretty good to me. Is Husband out here doing this all day? Are you serious? You want a rare one? Pick a steak one. That's great. That's good. You all get yours. Okay, did you get that?
Not yet.
Huh? You picked out yours. Are they? I'll be eating a finger. What time to start this one? That's great. Well, good enough. Well, thanks very much. You got chicken over here? Yeah, chicken over here. What are these? Just look like they've been fillets, huh? Yeah. Good. Good stuff. Well done. Thanks for doing, too. Thanks for helping out, too. Very grateful. Warren County.
Later in the afternoon, all of the candidates who showed up spoke to the crowd of Iowa voters. You can see those speeches and more of C-SPAN's coverage of the 2008 race at CampaignNetwork.org. The House is coming in just a few minutes at 10 Eastern for legislative work. Today, a bill dealing with home mortgages. We talked to a Capitol Hill reporter about it. On the phone with us is Bill Swindell of Congress Daily. In the wake of problems in the subprime mortgage business, how is Congress responding?
Well, the House is scheduled this week to take up a bill that would overhaul the Federal Housing Administration, which insures mortgages, especially for those, the target audience is probably those maybe low income and more at risk. And the FHA program over the years has lost a lot of market share because it hasn't been able to offer new products and new policies and that has been picked up by the subprime market that we've heard so much about. And a lot of critics have said that these people have been left to the subprime market and left to loan terms with questionable policies that put them at risk of losing their home.
So how would this bill help those people?
Well, basically, it does a few changes. Basically will lower upfront fees for high-risk borrowers and will allow zero down payment for first-time borrowers. Currently, the FHA requires a down payment of at least 3%. The major one, too, is it would allow the FHA program to participate in a lot more communities. The problem is right now with it is that it has a loan limit of only $362,000. Now, in a lot of parts of the country, that can buy a pretty good house, but in certain areas, especially the large metropolitan areas around the country, San Francisco, Boston, New York, that's not even middle class for a lot of people, and FHA loans have been shut out. So basically, it would raise it to $417,000, which is the loan limit amount for loans assured under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
So the bill increases that amount, that dollar figure. Does anybody really have a good sense of how many folks are affected by this? How many folks are facing foreclosure?
Well, the foreclosure question is a big debatable topic. There's one group that has been the Center for Responsible Lending, which has been an advocate for low-income home buyers, that estimated over the next 2 years, 2.2 million families could lose their home, potential losing that. Other bankers in that question the figure, even though we are seeing some record rates in terms of those that enter in foreclosure. But if you enter foreclosure, it doesn't mean you lose your loan, because the banking regulators have urged banks and loan servicers to try to work with borrowers to see if they can work out some compromise, so a person may be able to keep their home.
You mentioned the Center for Responsible Lending. How would this bill address risk and making sure folks don't get in over their heads?
Well, the one thing about the FHA, in terms of, it's a little different because we have Congress is dealing with a lot of issues right now, but the FHA program, advocates believe if that is able to enter the marketplace a lot more and assume a lot more of that risk, its stability. They offer, loans without predatory, they insure loans without any predatory, things that you may see in prepayment penalties or other types of, teaser rates that shoot up after a while. They don't enter into those markets, and that's where the subprime has been the big, problem that has been caused on there. So they fear that the more that FHA can get more market share, get more stabilized, especially maybe for lower income and at-risk borrowers.
What are a couple of the amendments we might see on this home ownership bill?
Well, there are a couple that you may want to keep out. The big one's going to be one by Barney Frank and Representative Gary Miller, who is a Republican from Orange County, California. And their amendment is kind of interesting because we talked about the loan limits being raised up to $417,000. They've decided that, and since what we've seen with the mortgage market crisis lately and all the turmoil that's been going on there, that the FHA needs to play even a bigger role. So their amendment would even boost it, potentially in a lot of areas beyond $500,000, and would also give the HUD secretary the authority to raise these loan limits by another, on top of another $100,000. And the administration has come out against that proposal because it says the program should remain to its roots, which have been traditionally underserved home buyers, low income and moderate income families. So that's going to probably be a big amendment to see. And we may see Republicans, there could be different ones. One I am aware that he's trying to get on the floor is Jeff Hinserlin, that to use money in this, because this bill will generate revenues, maybe even up to $300 million a year, and House Financial Services Chairman Barney Frank wants to use that money to siphon off the profits that FHA will make, and these profits come from reverse mortgages that the FHA can insure, and use that to set up an affordable housing fund for low-income residents so they can get housing. And there are a lot of Republicans who don't believe that the FHA they should be siphoning off that money, that the money should stay within the program to help build the FHA program. So we should see a fight maybe over that issue as well.
Bill Swindell writes for Congress Daily. He's previewing the home ownership bill coming up in the House. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we take you live to the U.S. House now for debate on that bill and
Chair
others.
recognizes the gentlewoman from Florida. Without objection.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to commend my good friend, Rabbi Fred Klein, for his uplifting prayer that he delivered for us this morning, as well as for his tireless efforts to strengthen the Jewish community in my home district of South Florida. Rabbi Klein serves as the Director of Community Chaplaincy at the Greater Miami Jewish Federation and is the Executive Vice President of the Rabbinical Association of Greater Miami. In these roles, Rabbi Klein offers counsel to the physically and mentally ill in their greatest time of need. I have long been aware of Rabbi Klein's commitment and contributions to academia, to the Jewish community, and the social welfare of all of South Florida. But his greatest achievement, Mr. Speaker, is his family, including his 4 children, Moshe, who's 11, Shuli, 9, Benny, 6 years old, and Aryeh, almost 4. The opening prayer that Rabbi Klein delivered today reflects his intellectual fiber as well as his determination to improve our community and our country. I thank Rabbi Klein for his invocation, and I look forward to working with him in the years ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair will entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Oregon rise? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we've been greeted with a torrent of depressing news about Iraq, more violence, there's debate here about whether or not it's progress that the President plans to have the same troop level before the surge that we have next summer. There's no good way out. Keep the troops there and have bloodshed. Have them leave and have bloodshed. But there is one thing that every member of Congress ought to be able to agree upon, no matter what their position on the war in Iraq, that we have a moral and practical responsibility to step up and help those Iraqis who've put their life at risk because they help Americans as guides, as translators. As Ambassador Ryan Crocker pointed out this last week, it's time for us to step up and help these people. The Department of Homeland Security needs to have more people processing applications for those that are trying to escape the worst humanitarian crisis in the world other than Darfur. Don't make them leave Iraq to Syria or Jordan when we have the largest embassy in the world in Baghdad. Support our comprehensive bipartisan legislation H.R. 2265 to help meet that responsibility.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purposes does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask permission to address the House 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize the talented and dedicated students, faculty, and staff of the School of Medicine of the University of South Carolina for the innovative work they are doing in the development and use of ultrasound technology. Often called the stethoscope of the 21st century, ultrasound holds great potential for future advancements in medicine. With the growing portability and accessibility of modern ultrasound devices, this technology will help physicians better diagnose and treat patients for conditions such as heart failure, gallstones, aneurysms, and much more, particularly in rural areas. USC is leading the way by establishing an ultrasound institute to ensure graduates are well trained in the use of ultrasound technology. I appreciate Dr. Richard Hopman, Dr. Prakash Nagarkati, and Dr. Stanley Fowler for taking the time to introduce me to this training program, as well as for the extraordinary work they are doing on behalf of the USC community in the advancement of health care. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September the 11th.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee rise?
Address the House for 1 minute, revise my...
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 4 years ago, Army Staff Sergeant Morgan D. Keenan became the first victim of the Iraqi war from the city of Memphis. Staff Sergeant Keenan joined the Army immediately after high school, hoping to earn enough money for college and eventually become a lawyer. He was guarding a bank in Mosul when he was killed. His father said he was a beautiful kid. He was a serious-minded youngster who was devoted to fulfilling his mother's wishes. If his mother needed anything, instead of being put out and being in a park playing basketball, it was a joy to go out and do whatever he had to help her. On 9/11, I received an email from his sister, Miss Nicole Crawford. I read it. I am the sister of Staff Sergeant Morgan Keegan. I just wanted to know exactly where you and other members of Congress and members of the Senate were doing to bring our troops home. It's been almost 4 years since my brother was killed, and we still don't know why he was killed. Mr. Cohen, it is not just hard for the soldiers serving in Iraq, it's hard for their families also who worry about them. It is especially hard for the families that have lost loved ones in Iraq. Please don't take this the wrong way, but if the Democrats don't do something soon and force Mr. Bush's hand, there will not be a Democrat in the White House next year. People of this country voted for the Democratic Party because they want change. Ms. Crawford, I'm for change. I'm not going to vote for any additional funds but to redeploy our troops. I feel your pain. Thank you, Mr.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Michigan rise?
Unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, at this moment in Detroit, the leaders of the UAW and the domestic auto industry, the Big Three, are busy at the negotiating table trying to come to agreement on a new contract. And in these negotiations, both sides will be making tremendous concessions in the effort to restore the industry to profitability and to protect jobs. They are dealing with very difficult issues like retiree health care as well as pension reform. And I wish them luck, sincere good luck, because the future of my home state of Michigan and of manufacturing in America are at stake, as are literally millions of American jobs. We should all support them in their efforts to strengthen this vital industry. And what we should not do is pull the rug out from under them by enacting draconian and arbitrary fuel efficiency standards that would kill jobs while doing nothing to lessen our dependence on foreign oil. Both management and labor are making hard choices. They're working together to build a better future and a better industry. And in the same spirit, we here at the federal government should partner with our auto industry to help move forward technology that would actually solve the problem and create new jobs. While those involved in negotiations are trying to find common ground to save jobs, Congress should not be working to destroy them. I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, the Bush administration's recent decision to reject New York's plan to provide health insurance for uninsured children is just another example of how out of touch the President is with the needs of the American people. Last year, the number of uninsured children in the nation increased to over 8.6 million, an increase of over 600,000 children. The state of New York has committed to decrease this number, starting with our lowest income families. However, the onerous conditions placed by this administration are threatening to thwart New York's efforts. That any Americans have no health insurance is a travesty. That so many do is a tragedy of the highest proportion. Providing our children with health care is protecting America's future. It is difficult to imagine why the President wants to stop New York from protecting the health of its children, but this decision suggests just that. We must not allow this to stand. I am committed to working with my colleagues to do what must be done to overturn this misguided decision. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, on September 11th, America honored those murdered by people who kill in the name of religion. Americans held solemn tributes, prayers, and raised Old Glory across the plains and prairies of this heartland. But no American flags were displayed by students at Hobson High School in North Carolina. The superintendent of this government school district banned the display of any country's flag on the clothing of students. Dr. Hobbs said disruptions have been caused in the school by the wearing of certain national flags. So on this almost holy day of September 11th, no American flags were allowed on clothes at this American school. Dr. Hobbs, if you're going to ban the display and the wearing of flags, ban foreign ones, not the ones that fly over this nation, the American flag. Have we become so timidly concerned about offending foreigners that we now disrespect our nation by banning the American flag? This unpatriotic paranoia is an insult to this nation and the students of your school, and the superintendent should be ashamed. Mr. Hobbs, Betsy Ross would not be proud of you, and that's just the way it is.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
For 1 minute.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in Alan Greenspan's recently released memoir, President Bush and the Republicans in Congress come in for some sharp criticism. Reuters said of the book, Mr. Greenspan sharply criticizes President Bush's administration and the Republican congressional leaders in his memoir for putting political imperatives ahead of sound economic policies. The New York Times said of Mr. Greenspan's book, described, quote, the Bush administration is so captive to its own political operation that it paid little attention to the fiscal discipline for the nation, increasing America's debt by $3 trillion. The same fiscal discipline we had in the 90s, the pay-as-you-go rules, led to a $5 trillion surplus when President Bush took office and has led to a $3 trillion debt increase under President Bush and the Republicans. The fiscal discipline that we had in the 90s is exactly what the Democrats have put in place in this new Congress, hoping to put in place the fiscal type of discipline and the budgetary discipline that would lead us again to surpluses and balancing America's book. And Mr. Greenspan could not have said it better when people have taken the time to put their political interests ahead of America's long-term economic interests. I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise?
Yes, unanimous consent to revise and extend.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor and celebrate the 60th anniversary of the United States Air Force. America can rightly claim to be the greatest military power. This status is due in no small part to our overwhelming supremacy in air and space. Air Force men and women have produced an unsurpassed record of achievement. Never before has our ability to project military power depended so heavily on air and space capabilities. As an Air Force veteran and co-chairman of the House Air Force Caucus, I know firsthand how the Air Force provides our nation a unique military advantage. However, what is most impressive is the integrity and dedication of the men and women of the United States Air Force who work hard every day to ensure air supremacy. Let me leave you with the words of one of the Air Force founders, General Hap Arnold, quote, air power will always be the business of every American citizen, end quote.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is an exciting week for all Democrats because we're sending one of our top priorities to the President's desk, and that is the College Cost Reduction and Access Act. Education departments estimate that over 200,000 academically qualified students are unable to go to college. This legislation will be the largest investment the Democratic Congress has made since 1944. Specifically, the Pell Grant scholarships will be increased by $1,090 over the next 5 years. We'll be able to cut interest rates from the current 6.8% to 3.4%, and that will save student borrowers over $4,000 over the life of their loan. Members, this is great news, and it's great news to taxpayers because we have been able to utilize eliminating excessive federal subsidies so that way the lenders in the industry will bear the cost of this increase. This is a personal story for me. I've been working since the age of 12. I took out student loans and was able to get my education because of programs like this. Mr. Speaker, this is a great day for Democrats in this Congress to send the legislation. Thank you.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, as we come to the floor 9 months into the control of this House and this country by the Democratic majority, we have to ask ourselves, what has it wrought? Well, it has brought us expanded government programs outside of the area of jurisdiction, increase in federal spending, and, of course, efforts to raise taxes on Americans. Just at the very beginning of this year, it was the largest tax increase in U.S. history. A short time ago, it was a $53 billion increase through the S-chip program. On spending, it was a $1 billion program just yesterday tried to do. And, of course, there's a litany of earmarks that we still do not know where it's going to and who's sponsoring it. You know, it was a Republican majority that forced the Democrats to give us a list of all the earmarks and their spending and ask for more transparency. But I want to remind the American public, to this day, we still do not have a list of all the earmarks, who's sponsoring them, and where the dollars are going to. I encourage the Democrat majority to do as the American public must do, to live within their means and to be open and honest as to where the American tax dollars are going to. And with that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Hampshire rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, President Bush has called for more money, more patience, and a renewed commitment of U.S. troops in Iraq for the foreseeable future. The American people should not be fooled. This is nothing more than another stay-the-course strategy that puts us on a path for 10 years of war in Iraq. Under the Bush plan, about 5,700 troops, or about 3.5% of the American forces in Iraq, would come home later this year. That's it. The rest of our troops would remain in Iraq until at least next summer. The President anticipates that at least 130,000 American men and women would remain in Iraq indefinitely for many years to come. The President's plan for Iraq amounts to an open-ended and dangerous commitment of American troops in Iraq and an open wallet for the American people to pay. Mr. Speaker, this is not a plan for success in Iraq, nor is it a plan that will make America safer. It is time for my Republican colleagues to stand up to this president and say, enough is enough. Democrats will continue to demand change because it is time that we begin a responsible redeployment out of Iraq.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute revising.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through a hailstorm of political attacks that continue on the floor of the Congress this morning, last week America's two lead men in Iraq brought news to this Congress which should be welcome to every American family. Despite the lack of political progress at the national level in Iraq, the military surge is working. And because the surge is working, our troops can start coming home. I urge every American to tune out the rhetoric in Washington, D.C. and read the report. But don't just read the testimony of General David Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker. Read the recent report issued by the more liberal-leaning Brookings Institution. In each case, our men and that liberal think tank found civilian deaths are down, Sunni leaders are cooperating with U.S. forces, and al-Qaeda is on the run in Baghdad and Anbar province. These independent assessments should be read by every American, and every American should be encouraged. For even to a war-weary nation, I say, if we do not grow weary in doing well, freedom will prevail in Iraq.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Hampshire rise? Without objection.
We now know what the President's plan for Iraq is. It's just stay. Stay for how long? He doesn't know. We don't really have a plan, but we do know that we have not succeeded in Iraq. In spite of the efforts of our brave soldiers, in spite of the $10 to $12 billion a month that we have spent, in spite of all of our efforts, we have not succeeded. Now, if you look at the independent, nonpartisan reports in Iraq, you find that 100,000 Iraqis are moving from their communities every single month. Why would 100,000 Iraqis move from their homes, from their schools, from their lives? They're moving because they're not safe. We have militia roaming around. We've had ethnic cleansing in Baghdad. If you look at the maps of the neighborhoods 2005 and now 2007, you realize that the Iraqis are not living together any longer. We have ethnic cleansing. We also know that the Iraqi parliament, more than half of the Iraqi parliament, signed a petition asking Americans to go home. We also know that the Iraqis wanted to take a 2-month vacation in 140-degree weather while our troops were struggling. It is time to bring our troops home and look at American benchmarks. Thank you.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, the Democratic Congress makes college more affordable for American students and families by sending the College Cost Reduction and Access Act to the President. After initially threatening a veto, President Bush now says he will sign the bill into law. That's good news for millions of students and their families who are trying to figure out how they're going to afford a college education. Under President Bush, college tuition has increased 40% over inflation, putting college out of reach for many. While college costs have increased over the last 7 years, Pell Grants and other federal aid have remained flat, which has created an imbalance in the grant-to-loan ratio that students face. For some who are fortunate enough to attend college, they are leaving with more than $20,000 in loan debt. Our legislation begins to remedy this imbalance by providing the largest investment in college funding since passage of the GI Bill in 1944. Under our legislation, we increase Pell Grant scholarships by more than $1,000, and we cut student interest rates in half. Mr. Speaker, Democrats promised to make college more affordable this week, and we are living up to that promise. Thank you.
Gentleman's time expired. Chair lays before the House the following enrolled bill.
H.R. 3218, an act to designate a portion of Interstate Route 395 located in Baltimore, Maryland as the Cal Ripken Way.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Mr. Speaker, by direction by the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 650 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 115, House Resolution 650. Resolved that at any time after the adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill H.R. 1852 to modernize and update the National Housing Act and enable the Federal Housing Administration to use risk-based pricing to more effectively reach underserved borrowers and for other purposes. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived except those arising under Clause 9 or 10 of Rule 21. General debate shall be confined to the bill and shall not exceed 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chairman and ranking minority member of the Committee on Financial Services. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. The amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Financial Services, now printed in the bill, modified by the amendments printed in Part A of the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution, shall be considered as adopted in the House and in the Committee of the Whole. The bill as amended shall be considered as the original bill for the purpose of further amendment under the 5-minute rule and shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill as amended are waived. Notwithstanding Clause 11 of Rule 18, no further amendment to the bill as amended shall be in order except those printed in Part B of the report of the Committee on Rules. Each further amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, shall not be subject to an amendment, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. All points of order against such further amendments are waived except those arising under Clause 9 or 10 of Rule 21. At the conclusion of consideration of the bill for amendment, the committee shall rise and report the bill as amended to the House with such further amendments as may have been adopted. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one motion to recommit with or without instructions. Section 2. During consideration in the House of H.R. 1852 pursuant to this resolution, notwithstanding the operation of the previous question, the Chair may postpone further consideration of the bill to a time designated by the Speaker.
The gentlewoman from California is recognized for 1 hour.
Mr. Speaker, for purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlewoman is recognized for as much time as she may consume.
During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, As the clerk just read, HRES 650 provides for consideration of H.R. 1852, the Expanding American Home Ownership Act, under a structured rule. The rule provides 1 hour of general debate to be controlled by the Committee on Financial Services. The rule makes and orders 7 amendments printed in the Rules Committee report. This bill is being considered under a structured rule that will allow the House to consider amendments to address important issues with regard to this legislation. I look forward to the debate on the important issue before us today. I rise today in support of the rule providing for the consideration of the Expanding American Home Ownership Act and for the underlying legislation. I thank Subcommittee Chairwoman Waters for offering this bill. I thank Chairman Frank and Ranking Member Baucus for their hard work, along with the other members of the Financial Services Committee, in bringing this important legislation to the floor. The bill underlying this House resolution addresses an issue of critical importance to our constituents and to our economy, the subprime mortgage lending crisis. We are here today to consider reforming the Federal Housing Administration's loan policies as a means of stemming the tide of foreclosures that have besieged our nation. Owning a home is part of the American dream, but predatory lenders have been crushing that dream by taking advantage of home buyers with damaged credit. Lured by attractive initial terms, vulnerable home buyers who do not qualify for federally backed loans take on subprime mortgage loans that they cannot afford. These loans come with escalating interest rates which start low and encourage overborrowing. The borrowers learn too late, when their homes are foreclosed upon, that they would not be able to afford those higher payments. We are now faced with the unfortunate situation that our residents are losing their homes in record numbers. The increasing rate of foreclosure continues to make the news in California and across the nation. Data released just last month show the rising foreclosure rates in cities across the country. The numbers are as high as 1 foreclosure in every 27 households. That is not acceptable. And the housing market continues to suffer. Last week, a report from my Sacramento district cited a more than 13% drop in the median home prices in the past year. That is the largest one-year drop in 20 years. Despite good economic growth in the region, the housing market is in trouble. Many point to the subprime mortgage crisis to explain this. Trends like this can be seen across the country, not just in Sacramento. The administration wants to allow 80,000 people to refinance their loans through FHA. That is good, but is not going to address the scope of this problem. More than 2 million adjustable rate mortgages are up for reset this fall, at which time their interest rates will increase. 2 million mortgages. That is 2 million more families who will be at risk at losing their homes if they cannot keep up with the higher payments. This pattern cannot continue. The housing market crunch, driven by the subprime mortgage lending troubles, is making waves throughout our economy. Over the past few months, we've seen the Federal Reserve cut its discount rate and make an additional $62 billion available to try to stabilize the real estate financial market. Last month, Countrywide Financial, the largest home mortgage lender, was trading at levels comparable to junk bonds. And lastly, AIG, the world's largest insurer and one of the biggest mortgage lenders, stated that delinquencies and foreclosures are becoming more common among borrowers whose credit rates are just above subprime. So the problem is getting worse, not better. Congress needs to act, and we need to act now. The bill we're considering today will overhaul the Federal Housing Administration to make federally backed loans competitive with subprime and other non-traditional mortgage loans. We need to make sure that subprime mortgages are properly regulated to get our home buyers into good loans and rein in predatory lenders. The bill authorizes FHA to offer loans with little or no down payment and directs it to approve loans to borrowers with higher credit risk than is currently allowed. These measures will enable FHA to compete with the introductory teaser rates advertised by subprime lenders. The bill will raise the single-family loan limit, enabling families who live in more expensive areas, such as California, to qualify for FHA-backed loans. The FHA has virtually no presence in expensive areas where the average price of a home already exceeds the FHA loan limit. Increasing access to FHA-backed loans will give many thousands of our constituents the stable financing terms that they need to keep up with their payments and stave off foreclosure. Furthermore, this bill offers relief to our seniors. Seniors are often targeted by subprime loans, especially for reverse mortgages. Seniors who own their homes but who have limited financial resources might need to mortgage their homes to pay for other expenses. This bill eliminates the cap on FHA reverse mortgages to meet with growing needs of our seniors in tight financial times. Finally, the legislation directs surplus FHA funds to a housing counseling program as well as to an affordable housing fund. In this way, the legislation will ensure that borrowers have the opportunity to achieve their dream of owning a home, as well as to become educated about their mortgage options and what it will mean in the long term. The mortgage lending troubles are getting out of control. This bill will take an important first step toward reining in the disturbingly high rate of foreclosure. Later this week, Chairman Frank will hold a hearing with Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke and other administration officials to look for additional legislative and regulatory solutions to this growing problem. Ensuring that FHA lending policies are up to date and competitive in the current market is a good start. This bill will ensure that our fellow Americans have better federally backed choices to buy a home. This bill will curtail the spread of subprime lending and get more of our homeowners into mortgage loans with stable interest rates and transparent terms. This is a step in the right direction. This is a bipartisan issue. The House passed similar legislation in the 109th Congress. This bill expands upon that legislation, reflective of the growing crisis. We need to pass this bill. Our constituents need this bill to keep their homes, and we need to work with our colleagues in the Senate to get this bill to the President. I look forward to the debate on Expanding Home Ownership Act and hope that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will join me in supporting this rule and the underlying bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman reserves the balance of her time. Gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in reluctant opposition to this unnecessarily restrictive rule and to a number of the provisions included in the underlying legislation in its current form. While I appreciate and support the committee's effort to provide for the safety and soundness of our nation's housing financial system and our broader financial system, this legislation has a number of avoidable shortcomings, and I hope that at least some of them would be corrected during the restrictive amendment process provided for by this rule. The Federal Housing Administration was created by the National Housing Act of 1934 to broaden home ownership, protect lending institutions, and to stimulate the home construction industry. In addition to providing stability and liquidity to the mortgage market, the FHA's efforts have led to the creation of the 30-year mortgage product and the mortgage instrument standardization, both of which have contributed to the growth of our modern housing financial marketplace. And as one of the very few federal government agencies to operate entirely on fees derived from the program, the FHA has accomplished all of this with no taxpayer dollars or subsidy. The legislation that has been brought to the House floor today includes a number of important modernization provisions that will help American families across this country to own their own homes, like increasing the FHA loan limit for high-cost areas, providing for flexible down payment requirements, simplified and improved condo loan requirements, and an expansion of the ability to utilize home equity conversion mortgages. This bill closely mirrors H.R. 5121, Republican legislation that passed overwhelmingly last Congress, and would also supplement the FHA Secure initiative unveiled by President Bush at the end of August. This program, which is aimed at borrowers who have fallen behind on their payments after a mortgage rate reset, is projected to help 250,000 families over the next year. By helping first-time owner-occupied home buyer finance into mortgages that they can afford, this already implemented program will help families and subsidize communities while targeting this support to the real families in need and away from speculators who do not need help from the federal government. Unfortunately, despite all the positive elements included in this legislation, I do believe that this bill could be vastly improved. Chief among the problems with this legislation is its establishment of a new line of income for a poorly defined affordable housing grant fund linked to increased FHA receipts. FHA receipts are already recognized for future budgeting purposes to help determine subsequent affordable housing programs appropriations at HUD, with any extra revenue from these programs deposited in the U.S. Treasury as a benefit to taxpayers. This legislation would divert this revenue to a housing fund with a poorly defined mission, reducing resources available for other existing HUD programs that already exist low-income families and individuals. I believe it is bad public policy to tie the fate of families that need housing support to the success or failure of the FHA to bring in surplus revenue. Even worse, because the affordable housing funds would come from fees related to conforming loans and reverse mortgages, this bill levies a new stealth tax on the most modest home buyers and on seniors without even disclosing them the costs associated with this new federal mandate. Other problems with H.R. 1852 include its failure to provide the FHA with the flexibility needed to implement risk-based pricing, which limits consumer choice as well as the FHA's ability to help additional home buyers. This bill's proposed 2% limit on home equity conversion mortgage loan origination fees proposed in the legislation, which attempts to protect senior citizens from potentially abusive lending practices, may also unnecessarily limit choice and flexibility in a changing marketplace. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank Committee Ranking Republican Spencer Baucus, Subcommittee Ranking Member Judy Biggert, and the incoming Ranking Republican on the Housing and Community Opportunity Subcommittee, my former Rules Committee colleague, Shelley Moore Capito, for all their hard work on this legislation. Mr. Speaker, I would also ask unanimous consent to insert in the congressional record the statement of administrative policy regarding this legislation, and would like to take this opportunity to thank two people for their hard work from the White House aides Chris Freck and Marty McGinnis, who have provided important information not only on this, but worked with members to make sure that they understood the White House's position on this issue. Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time. The gentlewoman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I might consume. Before yielding to my next speaker, I'd like to point out the bill directs surplus funds to an affordable housing fund. This is an appropriate use of any net FHA funds. The surplus funds are directed to a source that is consistent with the mission of this legislation to help Americans buy homes through federally backed means. However, for those members who do not support this fund, I want to point out that there is an amendment made in order to strike the fund. All members of this House will have an opportunity to vote on this important issue. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield 4 minutes to the gentlewoman from Ohio, Ms. Sutton, a member of the Rules Committee.
Gentlewoman from Ohio is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlewoman for her leadership on this issue and on this rule. Mr. Speaker, I rise in favor of this rule and in strong support of the underlying legislation, the Expanding American Home Ownership Act. Owning a home in this country is called the American dream for many reasons. Pride of ownership, a sense of responsibility, the feeling of settling down and belonging to a community and a neighborhood. But the American dream is in peril for many families in this country as foreclosures rise and dreams shatter. I'm sorry to report, Mr. Speaker, that in my home state of Ohio, We have the nation's highest rate of mortgages that are seriously delinquent or in the foreclosure process. In April of this year, Ohio had nearly 12,000 default notices, auction sale notifications, and bank repossessions. Sadly, 1 in 10 Ohio homeowners with a mortgage is at least a month behind in payments, and 1 in 4 with a subprime loan is delinquent or in foreclosure. Now, these staggering statistics are not just numbers. They are families and individuals whose American dream is quickly becoming a nightmare. I have talked with many hard-working, proud families who are struggling to pay their mortgages and afford health insurance, struggling to put food on the table and pay for their children's college education. They're working hard and they're playing by the rules. But nonetheless, the American dream has moved out of their reach. The home ownership crisis is part of a larger problem for our nation, where policies and laws have not worked for our low and middle class families the way that they should. This is unacceptable for my constituents, and it should be unacceptable for a nation built by working men and women that prides itself on ownership, responsibility, and fairness. Mr. Speaker, the problems in the housing market are not new, but they have become what they are because of a lack of action and leadership from prior Congresses and this administration. The lack of oversight has led to the abuse of a mortgage system by unscrupulous lenders and others looking for easy profit by preying upon those who are most vulnerable. And it is wholly unacceptable that a system that should be an avenue to home ownership has instead become a path to heartache for far too many families. Today, by passing the Expanding America Home Ownership Act, we take a bold step forward on what is going to be a long road to fix this broken system. H.R. 1852 raises loan limits, helps reduce the burden for high-risk borrowers, expands counseling for home buyers, and provides new ownership incentives for low-income families. And these are very important and positive measures. This is a demonstration of our commitment to restore the American dream. But we also understand that there is no easy fix for this issue. In coming days, I plan to introduce legislation that will bring together many interests and groups involved in foreclosure and mortgage lending crisis so that we can continue to act to improve this situation. I hope that working together we will be able to quickly offer comprehensive and meaningful solutions to move forward. A similar effort has been made in Ohio, spurred by our new governor, Ted Strickland. And just recently, they came back with some very important recommendations that will hopefully make a meaningful impact in the state. But we here in Congress at the federal level need to do our part. Mr. Speaker, never again do I want to have to hear that a family has lost their home simply because our laws and regulations have worked against them. I urge passage of this rule and the underlying legislation.
Gentlewoman from
Thank
Ohio's
you.
time has expired. The gentlewoman from California reserves the balance of her time. And gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to yield 5 minutes to the gentlewoman from Illinois, Mrs. Bigger.
The gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, today I rise in opposition to this rule governing the consideration of H.R. 1852, the Expanding American Home Ownership Act of 2007. I had hoped that the committee would see the wisdom in providing an open rule to this important legislation, and in the absence of an open rule, that it would at least make in order those amendments that the members took the time and effort to draft, including one of my own amendments. Unfortunately, only some of the amendments filed with the Rules Committee were made in order. While I'm pleased that some of these amendments made in order are Republican amendments, others amendments which were offered and debated during our committee markup of this bill were not made in order. These amendments deserve to be debated and given a fair hearing. Mr. Speaker, last year, FHA's modernization bill, which passed the House by a vote of 415 to 7, garnered broad bipartisan support. This year's bill does not have that kind of support. I am pleased that the majority has edged closer to last year's bipartisan bill since the introduction of the new bill under consideration today. As I pointed out during our committee hearing and markup on this bill, the bill originally excluded homeowners seeking to refinance from benefiting from a modernized FHA. The bill will now assist more homeowners, perhaps some seeking to refinance a bad subprime loan, but still not as many as last year's bill. I continue to object to provisions that do not fully allow for risk-based pricing. Again, witnesses during our committee hearings said this would result in FHA serving fewer, not more, American borrowers. I also remain opposed to the provision that siphons money away from FHA to fund a brand new government program, another trust fund, to build more affordable housing. While this is a very important issue, affordable housing, what we need here is to have FHA money to help those that are in trouble, facing foreclosure, or those first-time borrowers who would not be able to find a good mechanism to find a mortgage. So during committee deliberations, we were given the opportunity to debate and consider a variety of issues pertaining to this bill. Members on our side of the aisle had hoped that all members, not just those on the Financial Services Committee, would be given the same opportunity to debate important issues on the House floor. Republicans support many aspects of this bill, H.R. 1852, but I think we all deserve the right to participate in the amendment process, whether as a member of the Committee of Jurisdiction or as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Only through an open rule is that possible. For this reason, I rise in opposition to the rule being considered today and urge my colleagues to vote no on this rule. That I yield back the balance of my time.
From Illinois yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from California.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself this time as I may consume to make a comment. Before yielding to my next speaker, I'd like to point out that 7 amendments were made in order. 2 of the minority amendments offered were redundant changes, so 1 of those were made in order. And finally, an amendment in the nature of a substitute offered by Ms. Biggert was made in order. We are providing ample opportunity for debate and for members to vote on the provisions of the bill. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer.
Gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the gentlewoman's courtesy in permitting me to speak on this bill and appreciate her leadership, and particularly emphasizing the fact that the minority has the opportunity for a substitute to be offered up. So the House will have an opportunity to weigh the different approaches to determine what is truly in the best interest of American homeowners. I welcome this legislation today. I support the rule and I support the underlying legislation, but I hope that this will be just the start of ongoing progress for dealing with what is truly a housing crisis that is enveloping this country. While it's pleasant to read now that Alan Greenspan, as he's attempting to protect his role in history, now agrees that there were probably some mistakes that were made, not yet acknowledging failure on the part of the Fed to step forward and deal meaningfully using the powers that they had in the housing market. Today we see the consequences of that failure of this Congress, a failure of being able to meaningfully deal with the protection of American homeowners. Foreclosures are mounting by the day, but we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, because literally tens of thousands of people every week are going to be facing a situation where adjustable rate mortgages in the months ahead are going to be exploding in much higher rates, where people are going to be paying $200, $300, $400, $500 a month or more higher, and be trapped in to these unfair subprime loans. There is a clear pattern of abuse of lower income, less sophisticated buyers. It's time for us to put on the table more comprehensive approaches. Isn't it time to reconsider the draconian bankruptcy legislation that this House passed a few years ago? Maybe it is time to treat the homeowner, dealing with the most valuable asset most families have, their home, the same way that a business person who speculated in purchasing homes for investment purposes would be treated in bankruptcy. The speculator business person can readjust mortgage terms. They can negotiate interest rates and the amount of the loan. That is denied to homeowners. Maybe it's time to consider some consumer protections. If you buy a $40 toaster that explodes, there's a federal agency that will protect you. But if you buy a financial instrument that has a 1 in 4 chance of exploding in the face of the buyer, putting at risk their #1 asset, there isn't any similar protections. Well, I appreciate the legislation that's coming forward. I'm hopeful that it's just the beginning of dealing with this ongoing problem.
Gentleman from Texas.
Speaker, at this time I was waiting for one additional speaker, and that gentleman has not showed up at this time, and I'd like to inquire of the gentlewoman if she has additional speakers or where we may stand in our getting this rule done. If I could please engage the gentlewoman.
What did he say? We're waiting for one speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm waiting for an additional speaker. So I reserve.
Great. The gentlewoman is waiting for additional speaker, and I appreciate that very, very much. Mr. Speaker, you know, we're here this morning almost 11 o'clock in Washington, D.C. I don't know of much else we've got going on here on the floor today. I think we're going to have 4 suspensions in addition to this bill, and yet last night the Rules Committee, our friends in the New Democrat majority decided that they would shut down debate by having this rule without it being an open rule, shut out a number of amendments and members who would choose to come down and debate things today. And so I'm disappointed that in a day when really not much else is going on, that we could not include the full discussion and take this day to talk about affordable housing and where the ideas are that each and every member might have on how we're going to increase home ownership and protect these homeowners. I find it interesting, however, with some of the speakers that we've had today, that just a few years ago, we were, with full knowledge of this United States Congress, very pleased that home ownership was increasing all across America and that credit was being extended to a number of people, including lots of families, who would have an opportunity to finally own their own home. And now we find out today that, in fact, it's a lot of people who are to blame, who are these greedy people who were the lenders, who were trying to get people and bring them in to buy houses, when in fact it was a national will. It was a good thing that they would have virtually at no cost down an opportunity to come and be in a house. We heard testimony where people really could get in houses for cheaper than they could living in apartments, and so millions of Americans went and did that, and they willingly signed on the line, yes, I will take this low-cost loan right now, and in 5 years, then I'll have to go to a market-based rate to borrow the money. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't somebody being greedy. This was someone who was out offering an opportunity. And as all of us would have to predict the future, we don't know what the future would be, but it got people in homes, and now we do have some problems. And dealing effectively with the problem is, I think, what we should be remembered for, not looking back and saying what a bad idea it was to make sure that millions of families could get in their own homes. So I respectfully disagree with those that come to the floor here today to argue about greed and all these people who took advantage of these poor and low-income homeowners. I think it was a good thing. I'm sorry it has not worked out in every single case, but guessing what something's going to be like in 5 years means that you have a chance to plan and be prepared for it. And so now we'll be judged on how well we do to make sure that we lessen the activity of the number of people who have to bail out of their houses because they can't afford them. Mr. Speaker, at this time I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time. Gentlewoman from California.
Mr. Speaker, my remaining speakers are not here, so I'm prepared to close if the gentleman from Texas is prepared to close.
Gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had anticipated and hoped that gentleman, Mr. Price from Georgia, might be here. I've been notified that he is in a meeting with constituents at this time. One of the amendments which Dr. Price brought to the Rules Committee yesterday, which the Rules Committee rejected on a party line basis, was part of really the debate and discussion that I think that needs to take place as we talk about taxpayer money being involved with housing in this country. And the amendment which was rejected by the new Democrat majority universally across the line, every single Democrat said no, they did not want to hear the debate on this, and it is as follows. The amendment said that it would require that any individual or household receiving money from the Affordable Housing Fund must prevent verification of legal residency by a secure identification document. Mr. Speaker, let's be forthright about this. We have had discussion after discussion, debate after debate about health care, about public housing, about housing funds, virtually every single topic that we get into here on the floor of the House of Representatives, where we believe, the Republican Party believes, that people who are seeking assistance and help from funds, whether it be taxpayers or those public systems like this that do utilize the attributes of the government, that there should be a verification that somebody is in this country legally and has legal status. Mr. Speaker, repeatedly, this new Democrat majority, whether it's for health care or whether it's now for this new housing fund, they do not want to require that someone even has to present verification of who they are. And we disagree with that. And I am sorry that the Rules Committee made a determination and the Democratic Party decided that they do not have to have anyone present verification of who they are or that they are in this country legally. We disagree with that, and I'm sorry that the Rules Committee did not allow that in order for the gentleman, Mr. Price, to be able to argue that as part of the debate today. So, Mr. Speaker, I will be voting no. I'll be voting no on this rule because I believe that what this new Democrat majority did is to shut down debate, even in a day when we have lots of time to get the best ideas on the floor and to make sure that every single member can be heard from. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas yields back the balance of his time. Gentlewoman from California.
Mr. Speaker, before I close, I just want to make a comment that H.R. 1852 already has strong identification requirements for those applying for FHA-backed mortgage insurance. With that, Mr. Speaker, we know that our housing market is in severe distress. We must ensure that subprime mortgage lending is not putting our residents at risk. Subprime mortgages can be a very useful tool, enabling those with imperfect credit to qualify to buy a home. Reining in predatory lending practices will help our families keep those homes that they've worked so hard to buy. The Expanding Home Ownership Act will ensure that FHA has the tools it needs to get more home buyers into good loans. This bill will bring the FHA regulations up to date. It will provide the agency with the ability and resources to offer a broader diversity of loans to meet the needs of the current market. This is an important bill that will give more of our constituents access to solid, federally backed loans. That is a kind of stable financing that homeowners need to get through the rocky times our real estate market is weathering. The Financial Services Committee has worked very hard to get this bill to the floor, and I hope that we can keep it moving forward. I hope that my colleagues will join me and show strong bipartisan support for the rule before us and the underlying bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time, and I move the previous question on the resolution.
The question is on ordering the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Speaker,
Gentleman from Texas.
on that I ask you the ayes and the nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having arisen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order. Approval of the journal by the yeas and nays, ordering the previous question on House Resolution 650 by the yeas and nays, adoption of House Resolution 650 if ordered. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as a 5-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is a question on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The question is on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The main legislative business on the House floor today, a home mortgage bill which would expand and make a number of changes to the Federal Housing Administration and mortgage loans. It's a 15-minute vote here. This first one on approving the journal, the official written record of the previous day's activities, and then a couple of 5-minute votes after that. During this vote, we'll get a preview of some of the debate ahead on the home mortgage bill. On the phone with us is Bill Swindell of Congress Daily. In the wake of problems in the subprime mortgage business, how is Congress responding?
Well, the House is scheduled this week to take up a bill that would overhaul the Federal Housing Administration, which insures mortgages, especially for those, the target audience is probably those maybe low income and more at risk. And the FHA program over the years has lost a lot of market share. Because it hasn't been able to offer new products and new policies and that has been picked up by the subprime market that we've heard so much about. And a lot of critics have said that these people have been left to the subprime market and left to loan terms with questionable policies that put them at risk of losing their home.
So how would this bill help those people?
Well, basically, it does a few changes. Basically will lower upfront fees for high-risk borrowers and will allow zero down payment for first-time borrowers. Currently, the FHA requires a down payment of at least 3%. The major one, too, is it would grow, allow the FHA program to participate in a lot more communities. The problem is right now with it is that it has a loan limit of only $362,000. Now, in a lot of parts of the country, that can buy a pretty good house, but in certain areas, especially the large metropolitan areas around the country, San Francisco, Boston, New York, that's not even middle class for a lot of people, and FHA loans have been shut out. So basically, it would raise it to $417,000, which is the loan limit amount for loans assured under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
So the bill increases that amount, that dollar figure. Does anybody really have a good sense of how many folks are affected by this? How many folks are facing foreclosure?
Well, the foreclosure question is a big debatable topic. There's one group that has been the Center for Responsible Lending, which has been an advocate for low-income home buyers, that estimated over the next 2 years, 2.2 million families could lose their home, potential losing that. Other bankers in that question the figure, even though we are seeing, some record rates in terms of those that enter in foreclosure. But if you enter foreclosure, it doesn't mean you lose your loan, because the banking regulators have urged banks and loan servicers to try to work with borrowers to see if they can work out some compromise, so a person may be able to keep their home.
You mentioned the Center for Responsible Lending. How would this bill address risk and making sure folks don't get in over their heads?
Well, the one thing about the FHA, in terms of, it's a little different because we have Congress is dealing with a lot of issues right now, but the FHA program, advocates believe if that is able to enter the marketplace a lot more and assume a lot more of that risk. It's stability. They offer, loans without predatory. They insure loans without any predatory, things that you may see in prepayment penalties or other types of, teaser rates that shoot up after a while. They don't enter into those markets, and that's where the subprime has been the big, problem that has been caused on there. So they fear that the more that FHA can get more market share, get more stabilized, especially maybe for lower income and at-risk borrowers.
What are a couple of the amendments we might see on this home ownership bill?
Well, there are a couple that you may want to keep out. The big one's going to be one by Barney Frank and Representative Gary Miller, who is a Republican from Orange County, California. And their amendment is kind of interesting because we talked about the loan limits being raised up to $417,000. They've decided that, and since what we've seen with the mortgage market crisis lately and all the turmoil that's been going on there, that the FHA needs to play even a bigger role. So their amendment would even boost it, potentially in a lot of areas beyond $500,000, and would also give the HUD Secretary the authority to raise these loan limits by another, on top of another $100,000. And the administration has come out against that proposal because it says the program should remain to its roots, which have been traditionally underserved home buyers, low income and moderate income families. So that's going to probably be a big amendment to see. And we may see Republicans, there could be different ones. One I am aware that he's trying to get on the floor is Jeff Hinserlin, that to use money in this, because this bill will generate revenues, maybe even up to $300 million a year, and House Financial Services Chairman Barney Frank wants to use that money to siphon off the profits that FHA will make, and these profits come from reverse mortgages that the FHA can insure, and use that to set up an affordable housing fund for low-income residents so they can get housing. And there are a lot of Republicans who don't believe that the FHA they should be siphoning off that money, that the money should stay within the program to help build the FHA program. So we should see a fight maybe over that issue as well.
Bill Swindell writes for Congress Daily. He's previewing the home ownership bill coming up in the House. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Ahead of that home mortgage bill debate, a little housekeeping and a couple of procedural votes related to the bill, H.R. 1852. This is a 15-minute vote on the Journal, the previous day's record, approving the previous day's record. The Associated Press reports, by the way, on that home mortgage bill, the bill would allow the FHA, which insures mortgages for low and income borrowers, to back refinanced loans of tens of thousands of borrowers who are delinquent on payments because their mortgages are resetting to sharply higher rates from low initial teaser levels. The White House yesterday released a statement of administration policy which said that the program should remain targeted to traditionally underserved home buyers, such as low and moderate income families. The White House said in a statement yesterday. That's from the Associated Press. Well, we have a good bit of time left in this 15-minute vote. While we do that, Washington Journal on the new Attorney General nominee Michael Mukasey, who is up on the Hill today visiting with Senate Judiciary Committee members. We spoke this morning with Evelyn Barrett of the Associated Press and got his thoughts on the nominee.
Joining us at the table, Evelyn Barrett, reporter for the Associated Press, here to talk to us about the terrorism rulings of Michael Mukasey, the Attorney General nominee, announced yesterday. Judge Mukasey is considered an expert in terror cases. Tell us why, and begin with his jurisdiction in New York.
He has been a judge for nearly 20 years, retired about a year ago, in the Southern District of New York, which is Manhattan Federal Court. Very high-profile courthouse. Historically handles a great number of terror cases and Wall Street cases as well. And at the time, in the 90s, he handled what was, at that point, the single largest terrorism case in U.S. history, which was the Landmarks case in which the primary defendant was the blind sheik Omar Abdel Rahman. It was a very long trial, very big trial, and he got a lot of credit at the time and since for the way he handled that case.
How did he handle the case? As we look at some of the coverage in the papers today from the Washington Post, there's a shot of a man known as the blind sheik. Tell us more. Take us deeper into this particular case.
Well, it was essentially a case charging the sheik and a number of other conspirators with plotting to blow up New York City landmarks. It was a case made shortly after the original 1993 World Trade Center bombings. There was a lot more attention and concern about what was actually going on in these small groups of people who appeared to be plotting to just kill a lot of Americans. And it ended up being a case that took month after month after month to handle in court. It raised a whole slew of novel legal issues, which in some ways, even today, the courts are still wrestling with, and he has wrestled with in other cases. And it really challenged the legal system's ability to unravel what is essentially international conspiracies against the United States. And how does a regular court system, used to dealing with, you know, drug cases and murder cases, handle that?
And more recently, the Jose Padilla case, written about quite a bit this morning as well, another landmark major case that Judge Mukasey was involved in. Speak to that one. What were the issues?
Right. Judge Mukasey signed the original material witness warrant for Jose Padilla, and that whole process triggered in the court system a very heated argument, a very intense argument as to how do you deal with a U.S. citizen who you believe is plotting with international terrorists to do devastating things to the United States. And it was a very hard fought. It took years to work out. It took a lot of back and forth. At one point, Mukasey was in fact chastising the government for some of the arguments it was making, calling it frankly absurd to him. On other key issues, he really came down ultimately to agree with a lot of what the administration was arguing in that case. But at the end of the day, he ends up arguing that even though he played a critical role in that case, the Jose Padilla case showed to him that there are still weaknesses in the U.S. criminal law in terms of dealing with terrorists.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Any opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
For a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
And a vote here on the rule for H.R. 1852, the Federal Home Mortgage Bill, which would expand and make a number of changes to Federal Housing Administration mortgage loans. It would raise loan limits, allow adjustments in bar down payments and costs, among other things. This is a 5-minute vote, and the rule would provide for an hour of general debate, 7 amendments, and 1 Republican motion to change the bill, with possible votes around 2 Eastern this afternoon. Bloomberg, by the way, related story, is reporting that the number of Americans who may lose their homes to foreclosure more than doubled in August from a year earlier as subprime borrowers with adjustable rate mortgages saw their monthly payments rise. A realty company said today. That's reported by Bloomberg. While this 5-minute vote continues, we'll bring you some more political news from this morning's Washington Journal and the Hotline.
Yes, hello, good morning. Well, I'm going to start off with congressional politics here first. We're going to go to Minnesota, where Jim Ramstad, congressman from the 3rd District around Minneapolis, announced yesterday that he's retiring. Now, this was something of a surprise. Jim Ramstad, known as a moderate on the Republican side, did cite the fact that he feels so-called political isolation as one of the reasons.
5 to 40 years and let FHA refinance subprime mortgages. The rule, if passed, as you can see on the screen, would allow for an hour of general debate, 7 amendments, and a Republican motion to change the bill. And it's possible we'll see votes again, a round of votes at about 2 this afternoon. In a related story in the mortgage business, Lehman Brothers said today they cut the value of leverage loan commitments and mortgage-related positions. They're taking a $700 million bite out of their third quarter revenue. That reported by MarketWatch.com. Over on the Senate side, they are headed toward a vote at 12:30 or so, at noon rather, on a bill that would allow District of Columbia high school seniors to attend any college in the country, any state college, with in-state tuition. That vote at noon. Senate breaks at 12:30 for their weekly party lunches. And then back at 2:15 for a vote at 2:30, procedural vote on allowing the District of Columbia a vote on the House floor. That at 2:30. You can follow that debate on our companion network, C-SPAN 2. And in just a little bit, we will be bringing you live coverage of a hearing with the Director of National Intelligence, Michael McConnell, testifying today before the House Judiciary Committee on the warrantless surveillance bill. He'll be joined there by the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. That House Judiciary Committee hearing will get underway shortly, wrapping up votes here in the House, and members will head over to that committee hearing. It's live. It will be live on C-SPAN 3.